Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel that takes you deep inside the San Francisco 49ers. I am your host, Jack Hammer, getting ready for day 15 of training camp here in Santa Clara. But I wanted to come on and talk to you about something that's happening at training camp that just cannot happen moving forward regarding 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy. And that is the interceptions. Brock Purdy, if this interception trend continues, this is the number one way that he can sink the 49ers season. Now let's get into it because the numbers are bad, and we'll get into the reasons behind those as well just a little bit. Number one, you look at the interceptions for Brock Purdy. He has thrown 8 interceptions through the first 14 days of training camp. Now, he also hasn't participated in every training camp practice, so that even makes that number worse. Looking at even a little bit deeper, over the last 6 practices, Purdy has thrown at least 1 interception in 5 of those, including 3 straight. 4 interceptions in his last 3 practices, 3 out in Vegas against the Raiders and those 2, 1 yesterday. And this is a trend that's been going on throughout camp, and it can't continue. Now, when it comes to Brock Purdy and it comes to the discussion about these interceptions, some of it has to do with his arm strength, and people are questioning and wondering if it has to do with his arm not being fully healthy and those types of things. What I'll say is this: Brock Purdy's arm is as strong as it's ever been. He can make all the throws just like we saw him make last year. He's making downfield throws, he's making throws on deep outs, he's doing all those types of things. There's not one reason that is happening, but it's not because of a lack of arm strength. It has more to do with just making poor throws. You know, out against the Raiders, several of Purdy's throws were just off the mark, leading to interceptions. The throw yesterday that was an interception was a bad throw, and it tends to be happening on throws where he's getting pressure and he's falling away from that pressure instead of standing there in the pocket and delivering the way that a quarterback needs to. Quarterbacks cannot fall back against pressure, throw off their back foot. It takes away all of their velocity and those types of things. And Brock Purdy, he needs to stand and deliver. And that's the case with every quarterback in the NFL. And that's been the biggest takeaway for me right now with Brock Purdy and the mistakes, especially on those interceptions, is he is just not delivering the ball accurately. Some people are saying, well, you got to take shots. You got to take shots in practice. This is the time to try and test things out. Well, it'd be one thing if that's what's happening, but it's not really so much of him trying to test things out as much as it is him just throwing inaccurately, and because the ball's inaccurate, it's getting to defenders. Some of it's falling back, some of it is just not making a good throw, and he needs to get this turned around. You know, you look to last season, one of the reasons the 49ers were so good last year was that Brock Purdy didn't turn the ball over very much. He only had 4 interceptions. Heck, you go back to his starts last season. In his starts, he had only 7 turnover-worthy plays, and those include the turnovers that he had. So that shows how good Purdy was at not putting the ball in harm's way. And that's one of the big reasons that Kyle Shanahan likes having Brock Purdy so much, and enjoyed and felt more comfortable calling plays for him, calling passes to attack the defense, because when he would do that, if it wasn't a good play, Brock Purdy didn't make it worse by making a mistake and throwing it into traffic. And that's something that we've seen so far during this training camp. It's something that he needs to change. Is it time to panic yet? No. Again, this is training camp. Right now, we're still almost a month, just a little less than a month away from week 1 out in Pittsburgh. So there's still a lot of time for this to change. There's still a lot of time for Brock Purdy to get this issue under control. So it's not time to press the panic button yet. It's not time to be overly concerned yet. But this is something that if Brock Purdy continues, once we get to week 1 in Pittsburgh, and it's going to be a big problem for this 49ers team. That's one of the reasons when you look back over the last few years, when the 49ers turn the ball over more than their opponents, they lose almost every time. When the 49ers win the takeaway battle, meaning they turn the ball over less than their opponents or tie, they win a lot. So Brock Purdy can't be contributing to those turnovers. He needs to make good decisions with the football. Don't throw them, don't turn it over, don't put the ball in harm's way. You got to be better on that. If Brock Purdy doesn't improve, it's going to be a big problem for the 49ers, and that is the one thing that Brock Purdy cannot do for the 49ers here in 2023. Take it for what it's worth. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep it locked in here at the channel. If you can do me a favor, hit that like button. After you hit the like button, turn on your notifications and subscribe to the channel. You're going to want to have your notifications turned on after you subscribe. That way you don't miss any of the updates right here on Inside the Farms with Jack Hammer. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk with you soon.